Well, hello, my fabulous friends. I hope you're doing well. Well, I have something completely different for you today. I'm not going to be reading the tarot cards, but I am going to be talking about King Charles III life cycles. Now, if you're taking teaching tarot, you will recognize this immediately. That was, I believe, class 25. We talked about life cycles. So, what life cycles are, this is not astrology, this is not the zodiac, and actually, astrology and zodiac came from these ancient life cycles. Like, we're talking back to the ancient Egyptians. These were based on the 7 planets that you could see with the naked eye: the Sun, the Moon, Mars, Mercury, Jupiter, Venus, and Saturn. And what they did is they split your year up based on your date of birth. Not doesn't have to be the year, you don't have to know the time. And they started counting from then. And each 52 days, a different planet rules that 52 days. So no different than the seasons rule our calendar year. These planets ruled your life cycle, and not only did it rule the year, it also rules your overarching life cycle, and it also rules your daily cycle. I'm going to be launching a course on how to use all of this for your own benefit, but that's beside the point. What I am going to show you is how these cycles have affected King Charles. So first of all, we're going to start. His birthday is the 14th of November. So then we count 52 days, and those first 52 days are ruled by the sun. Then the next 52 days are ruled by the moon. Next 52 days are ruled by Mars. Next 52 days are ruled by Mercury. Next 52 days are ruled by Jupiter. Next 52 days are ruled by September or by Venus. And the last 52 days is ruled by Saturn. And you may have heard me say once or twice, 52 days before your birthday is the most dangerous time in your life, in your yearly cycle. That's the most natural time to pass away. This also rules your yearly cycle, your overarching life cycle. But it starts with, instead of starting with the sun, it starts with the moon. Then it goes to Mercury, to Venus, to Sun, to Mars, to Jupiter, and then, of course, Saturn. So after age 67, everybody's in their Saturn time. So I want to look at King Charles' life cycles, where he is in the year, where he is in his life. And so we're going to start with, first of all, he is in his overarching Saturn time. After age 67, everybody's in their Saturn time. This is the time when dues are paid. Either you have a wonderful, happy retirement, or you don't. And it's all based on everything that you've done previous before age 67. Saturn is the taskmaster. If you learned your lessons, if you were diligent and worked hard, Saturn loves hard workers, honest people. Saturn people make great judges, for example. That's your karma will be great for you. If, however, you slacked off, you didn't save for a rainy day, you didn't work very hard, your retirement isn't going to be as grand as somebody who prepared for it. Saturn loves preparing. Now, I find this interesting with King Charles. Here he became king in his Saturn period. And you think about it, he didn't have to, I'm doing air brackets, work until for those first 67 years. And I know, don't at me, I know royalty, they work. Right? It is a job. It is a full-time job. It looks glamorous and whatnot, but you try meeting 1,000 people that you'll never see again and trying to make small talk and smile, and it's I know we'd all like to try it, but I think we would find it very tedious after a while. Anyways, I digress. He actually, Saturn along came the taskmaster and say, now it's time for you to go to work when you were 75. Anyways, when we look at King Charles, first of all, there is a yearly cycle that starts on the spring equinox every year, and that's the sun cycle. So you would put March 21st till whenever it is, the 52 days after that, and that's the sun cycle. And that's the cycle that rules the general economy. It rules the general society. It rules the people at large. And that cycle starts on the spring equinox every year without fail. So in King Charles, and I'm trying not to confuse you here, because it says 11th of June to 1st of August is his Jupiter time. But in the year when he was born, he was actually born during Jupiter time, the yearly cycle that starts on spring equinox as March 21st, and then 52 days, and then 52 days, and 52 days. He was actually born during the 5th period of the year, and that's the Jupiter time. So he's a Jupiter. All right, I'm trying not to confuse you. So he's a Jupiter personality, and that means he's very loving and giving, forgiving, very intellectual, makes great leader. That's kind of interesting. Has a tendency to gain weight. Jupiter expands everything, and sometimes there can be problems with kidneys, believe it or not, in Jupiter people. And how many of us have speculated that there's something with his puffy fingers, something wrong with perhaps his kidneys. So anyways, let's get to King Charles' life cycles. Now, the first thing I'm going to point out is notice his mother, the Queen, her birthday, 21st of April, that falls in Charles' 4th period. So, and that's his Mercury period. And for the Queen, Charles, so you think, this is so interesting to me because their periods match up. I mean, hers is off by 1 day, so you think 21st of April to the 11th of June. And so that would bring her period here, 24th of September to 14th of November. The Queen's birthday is in Charles' 4th period here, and Charles is in the Queen's 4th period. So they're both Mercury to each other, and that means that their relationship ran hot and cold. When it was good, it was very, very good, but there was times that it wasn't so good. And Charles has indicated that there was a lot of times that he was alone, for example, or didn't get what he needed from his mother. And I'm sure there was times that the Queen wasn't very pleased with Charles. So, for example, when him and Diana were divorcing, right? So their relationship was hot and cold because they're both Mercury, and Mercury is givers and receivers. Mercury is actually the sign of grifters, believe it or not. But it's also commerce. It's also the sign of thieves. And Mercury is one of the dual planets. All right. So I thought that was really interesting right off the start, that they're both Mercury to each other. I hope I'm not losing you here. I want you to look at this period here, 11th of June to 1st of August, and that's his Jupiter time, and he was born a Jupiter. And look at all the people that are in that timeline. He's got his father, he's got William, he's got Diana, he's got Camilla, he's got Anne. So these are all important people in his life that were born during his Jupiter time. And yes, Diana is important to him. It was his first marriage. It was his wife and the mother of his children. And I find it's interesting that William is here and Harry is here in his Venus time. Harry's born 22nd of or 15th of September, and Harry is in his Venus time. And Venus people are overindulgent, and believe it or not, Harry is actually a Mercury born during King Charles Venus time. And Mercury, what did I say, is a grifter, can be a liar, can be very generous with the truth, let's say. And here's Harry. Well, Venus is overindulgence. And some could argue that Harry has been overindulged because of some of the things he went through, being the youngest, being the spare. I mean, he complains a lot about his father. So maybe the overindulgence of Harry is what's contributed to their lack of a better word, warm relationship. That was a little bit about the personal relationships. I also wanted to point out Camilla and anyways, I also wanted to point out the marriages. His first marriage was on July 29th, which fell in this Jupiter time. And just think how celebrated that was, how big it was, how expansive it was. It was like the be all end all, that wedding in 1981. And when he married Camilla, which is a time I would not have recommended, which was on 9th of April, it was his Mars time. And so I'm not sure I'd want to be married during a time where it takes a lot of effort. But at the same time, a Mars wedding is a very physical relationship. And some could argue that they did have that physical attraction. I'm not going to talk about some of their phone calls that they had. Anyways, so there's some of the big dates. Now, the next dates I want to talk about, and I think this pertains to his health problems. I'm not going to discuss his health problems, but this pertains to his health problems. The next date is when he had the coronation in his period 4, which was his Mercury time. That's a terrible time to do anything very stressful. Mercury rules the mind and the nervous system. And when you do something extremely stressful, it can really rattle the body. And that was on May the 6th, so that was in his 4th period. Also, again, going back to when his mother passed away, when he first became king, was in his 6th period, which was a Venus period. And also, if you do not have, sorry, that's my dog. Sorry, as you know, she's not feeling well. And just one moment, I think she's going to throw up. Sorry about that. I'll tell you, I would much rather be sick than my child or my pet. It would be 100% easier. Anyways, I digress. Another time I'd like to bring to your attention is when his mother passed away on the 8th of September. That was during his 6th period. Now, during your 6th period, that's a Venus period. That should actually be your easiest period of the year. That's the fun period. So, for example, I'm currently in my Venus period, and so I decided to go on holidays. It's the best time to go on holidays. It's the best time to take some recreation, relax, spoil yourself, spas. This is a great time to buy clothes, etc., etc. Now, when something tragic happens during your Venus time, when it's a time that's supposed to be the most pleasurable of the year for you, it activates a nervous condition that you feel a lot of stress. It feels like you never got to relax. It feels like you don't have any pleasure in your life. It does exactly everything the opposite. It can bring on heavy drinking because Venus is the planet that, that's good food, good wine, good friends. And so when something tragic happens in your Venus period, it will affect you for a very long time to try and get that groove back, that feeling of pleasure, the feeling of relaxation, and it becomes very, very difficult. So, for example, his mother passed away during this time, and and you could just see on his face it took a very long time for him to get over that. Yes, he had to do it in public, but I think the grief lasted an extremely long amount of time. Also, we look at Harry's birthday is during his Venus time, and Harry creates a lot of difficulties for him. So that stress is really adding up for him. It feels like when your Venus is disrupted, it feels like you can't settle. It creates anxiety. It just feels like you're missing something. You're constantly missing something when your Venus period is disrupted tragically or for whatever a strong reason. I'm not talking about you miss a parking spot kind of thing. I'm talking about a death in the family, losing your job, a wayward child, a divorce, anything like that. It takes an extremely long time to get over. Now, I want to talk about when this coronation was during his Mercury period. If you do not, Mercury rules the nerves and your brain. And if you do not relax during your Mercury period, it actually can lead to a nervous breakdown. And we have the double whammy here of when his mother passed away in Venus during his Venus time, and then we have the coronation during the Mercury time. And I'm pretty sure I have a lot of people will agree with me. Neither him nor Camilla looked very relaxed or enjoying themselves during that coronation. If And also we know the mind body, the stress and whatnot that you're going through. And interesting enough, his Venus sun showed up during this Mercury season as well to be pushing some of those buttons. It honestly it is, if you're Mercury again, it's just a terrible time to not look after your mental health. If you don't look after your mental health, if you become too stressed, if you become too overworked, if it's like sales, 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 because that's what Mercury is, e-commerce, and all you're worried about is work and not any kind of pleasure, you are setting yourself up for a downfall at some time. So we look at that, and interestingly enough, Moon, Mercury, and Venus are all friends, and Sun, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn are all friends. And interesting, so we have Mercury and Venus here activated. So his mother passes away during a Venus time. Then we have Mercury activated. Now we're on double nerves and mental health and stressful times, working too much. Like, that coronation wasn't just that day. There was fittings, there was picking things out, there was rehearsals, there were decisions, etc., etc., etc. There was also dealing with his Venus sun. So S-U-S-O-N, not S-O-N. So now we have the Mercury, and guess what? Within 6 months, we have an announcement. He needs his prostate surgery, and look at, he had it on what was it, the 16th, 17th, somewhere around there of January. But he was in his second period. his moon period. And what's moon? Well, moon rules fluids in our body. And what's the prostrate? Well, what was the problem? What was he even said that it's the flow. When your prostate is really big, it blocks the flow of urine. So he had to have a small surgery during his moon time over his waterworks. So see how that Mercury and Venus activated his moon issue, and he had that surgery during moon. Is a great time to have a small surgery like that, because you want things quick and over with. It's our fastest moving planet within our sphere that affects our energy, so you want quick and easy surgeries like that. But I'm going to suggest that his current problem with his cancer diagnosis probably started on the death of his mother, when it interfered with his Venus problem, or his Venus. And then he went straight into his Mercury, and he just had all this stress and stress and stress. And we know what stress can do to the body. And I'm going to suggest that cancer showed up during his Saturn time here, after his 1 year anniversary of his mother passing, and after his coronation, because Saturn is when that kind of your cancer shows up. If you don't deal with it in time, and it goes into your Jupiter period, it will grow, because Jupiter expands things. So I'm going to suggest that his cancer started during his Saturn time. Your Saturn time is just before your birthday, because it was interesting. They found it during that surgery, so it would have had to start growing at some point. So I'm thinking that it started growing before his birthday. Then it got to a point that they could find it when they were looking in his moon period here. And also that pre-surgery, they would have been looking at his blood work, and that's fluids in the body. That's your moon time. And so that's when the cancer was discovered, during his second period. As you can see, he's just about leaving his second period here. As of 27th of February, he'll be going into his Mars period. Now, his Mars period runs right through till after Easter. And what so many big things are happening around Easter. Now, Mars is great for taking action on things, right? So right now he's in his moon period. He's doing quick things like chemo. He goes to the hospital and he goes home. He goes to the hospital, he goes home. So he's doing quick and fast things. So that's great to do that during your moon time. And then in his Mars time is when he should become very aggressive with his cancer if he wants to be rid of it. That would be the time to beat it, your Mars time, actually. You become very aggressive. You become very aggressive with the chemo. You become very aggressive with your surgeries. You do it, you eat properly. Whatever the doctor orders, you do, and you do it with vigor and with a determination. And almost like you're in a battle, you're in a fight for your life here. I'm not saying he's dying during this time, but you have to fight for your life during your Mars period. And he's coming into that. We'll see that next week, within a week or so. Watch to see if things start to become a little bit more aggressive in his care. Also, I wanted to point out your sun time, which is right after your birthday. So your birthday is your most important day of the year. And then the 52 days following, when you are in the sun, that's a great time to have people notice you, if you want to apply for that job, for example. You want to fight that ticket, go to court, you want to sue somebody, kind of thing. You want the judge to work in your favor, things like that. You're in the spotlight. You have to remember also that spotlight can burn you. But you think of the sun makes things grow. So here, that's another reason I think he got his cancer during his Saturn time. So after the first anniversary of his mother's passing, he just didn't have time to rest, and he was mentally stressed, and he's not giving his body time to rest. He's a well-known workaholic. Um, so he Saturn came, and Saturn taught him a lesson that, well, now you have to rest. Now you have to rest. You haven't taken any time off in a year, and now you're going to pay for it. Um, and during the sun was growing that cancer, right? Because the sun helps things grow. Things that are planted during the Saturn time. Saturn is Earth, or things of the earth. Saturn is a great time to do some earthly stuff, and the sun then makes it grow. So think of like you plant, in the spring, and then summer comes, and sun makes it grow. So that's another reason I think this cancer started sometime between 23rd of September and the 13th of November. The sun helped it grow. It was discovered in his blood, I believe, during his moon period. All right. Now, this is Charles' personal year. Now, for example, though, remember I talked about the overarching year that all of us have every year that starts on March 31st, starts 51st 52 days is the sun period, and the moon, the Mars, Mercury, Jupiter, Venus, Saturn again. And for most of us in the northern hemisphere, Saturn is our winter time, because it's our time, I believe, February 15th ish until March 21st. And it's so interesting how the Catholic religion has their Lent during that time. In that Saturn time, you're supposed to lay low, plan for the next year, figure out where you went wrong in the past year and how can you improve and whatnot. And that's exactly what winter is for, to lay low and and plan for the next year. I'm just trying to see what else. King Charles had a lot of moon people in his life. William is a moon person. I'm trying not to confuse you a lot here. William is a moon person, even though he's born during Charles' Jupiter time. That just means he was good for Charles. Harry is a Mercury. Mercury people are, it's funny, they are. It says actually in the book, they're grifters. So that's interesting. Harry is a Mercury problem. Camilla is a Mars person. So interesting, they got married during Charles' Mars time. Queen Elizabeth is a sun. Philip is a moon. Diana is a moon. And the Coronation is a moon. They are all moon people. So look, he has 4 big moons, and all of them are in his Jupiter time. Let's see, what else can I get from that? Let's see. I think that's about it. I just wanted to show you how these cycles actually work, and sometimes it's easier to look back. Also, during your Saturn time, anytime something or somebody is going to leave you, it will be during your Saturn time. That'd be time that you'd lose a job, a divorce, somebody could pass away. It most likely during your Saturn time, including you, if you're unwell, and the time is ticking. Count the 52 days before your birthday, and that is a danger zone for you. Yeah, but anyways, the cycles of life stand out quite loudly for King Charles, actually. Play right into it. All right, well, let me know what you thought of this. I like to throw in different things in this channel, like same old, same old. I hope I didn't confuse you a lot. And I'll put down in the description, I'll put the yearly cycle so you can see how general society, humanity, the earth, and of course that is for northern hemisphere. In the southern hemisphere, your yearly cycle would start with the autumn equinox, right? So you have to adjust. But I'm sure you guys are used to that by now. Thank you very much for listening, and let me know what you think of this. And it's a very, very easy cycle once you learn to use it. Take good care. See you online. Bye for now.